Welcome viewers to my views on news. How are you all? I hope you are all doing well. Hello, Mr. Sajid. How are you?
I'm fine, Mr. Ma. How are you? What is today's topic?
Well, today we'll discuss about the illegal migration from Eritrea and why I have picked up this topic because about 500 to 600,000 Eritreans have left the country so far. This number is not very big, but when you compare it with the total number of population, then it becomes around 10% of the total population, which means a big number of Eritreans are leaving their country. Um, well, the question is it easy to legally leave the country? The answer is no, because no matter whether an Eritrean is 6 years old or 60 years old, he needs to have a release order from the national service that where they have to serve forcibly. And if they don't get that, then they cannot go out. So there are many countries with very high numbers of Eritrean refugees. The first one is Ethiopia, where 236,000 Eritreans are living as refugees. Second is Sudan, 201,000 refugees are there. Germany, 62,000, Sweden, 61,000, and USA, 49,000. Now, the highest number is in Ethiopia. My first question to you is about there are four camps of refugees in Tigray. And when this recent war took place, the conflict between Tigray and Eritrea, there were reports from different sources that two of the camps were occupied by the Eritrean forces, and they tortured people over there. The women were raped, and this continued for 2 months. And before they went ahead, they destroyed both the camps. And since then, 7,500 Eritrean refugees are missing. So, is that correct? Do you have any knowledge about that?
Firstly, I caught a little cold. I'm not feeling well, so excuse me in advance if there are some breaks in my talk. Yes, migration from Eritrea is huge. As you quoted some numbers, people are fleeing. Your first question is about numbers. How many were in Tigray in Ethiopia? Did they go through any suffering, any painful experience when the war went on in northern Ethiopia, with Tigray on one side and Ethiopia, Eritrea governments, regional forces on the other side? There were four main camps of Eritrean refugees in Tigray when the war broke out in November 2020. Headsets, Shemelba, Mayani, Ediharish. Mayani, Ediharish are mostly, they are in Western Tigray. I think to the west of Takeze is Ediharish. Headsets and Shemelba are relatively close to Eritrea Tigray border. And around 100,000 Eritrean refugees were there at these camps. 8 organizations were providing food, another supplies to these refugees. Suddenly, war broke out. And you saw that in this war, Tigray was under complete siege when the war started. ENDF and EDF, Ethiopian and Eritrean militaries, they laid siege to Tigray. So no one was allowed to enter or leave Tigray. No one, I mean no one, including aid organizations. These refugees were receiving food from aid organizations, which were not allowed to enter Tigray. It means that during the last 2 years, the refugees, mostly in major part of the last 2 year period, organizations like you and others, they had no access to these refugee camps. Then both sides were involved in attacks on these camps. It would be unfair to say that only Eritrean military attacked these camps. No, actually, both sides mistrusted these refugees. Eritreans believed Eritrean militaries were providing intelligence to Tigray forces. Tigray forces mistrusted refugees. They thought that these refugees were providing information to Eritrean government. So TPLF-backed militias and Eritrean military both attacked these camps. Yes, international media reported more about Eritrean military's attacks on these camps. And 2 camps were almost destroyed. Headsets and Shimalba, I remember I shared some satellite images which were published by a news outlet showing devastation at these camps. The refugees there, they had to flee for their lives. So they tried to enter neighboring countries, Sudan. They tried to enter neighboring regions like Amhara, Afar. New refugee camps were established, like in Amhara, in Alim Watch. A new refugee camp was established, and from Tigray, these refugees were then relocated to Amhara, in Afar as well. But wherever the refugees went, suffering followed them. Just a few days ago, I did a video about miserable living conditions at Alim Watch refugee camp in Amhara region. And there, these Eritrean refugees protested. They wanted to return to Eritrea. It happened just a few days ago when the war had come to a close in northern Ethiopia. So, less reported victims of this 2-year-long war are Eritrean refugees. No one really owns them. I mean, they fled Eritrea. Eritrean government is not owning them. Tigray authorities mistrusted them. Ethiopia sees them as outsiders. No one spoke for them. They suffered. Thousands are still missing. No one knows where they are. Have they been killed in combat related in fighting? Are they in Sudan? And they have been scattered. But you're right in terms of numbers that Ethiopia has one of the largest population of Eritrean refugees.
So people are so desperate to go out. What are the causes? What are the reasons why people are leaving?
International media mostly blames Eritrean human rights record. That due to poor human rights record, people, especially youth, want to leave the country. Youth have to serve.
Is it because of conscription?
Yes, conscription could be one of the factors. Religious persecution, no independent, no freedom to speak, no political freedom, lots of issues, economic issues. We must not ignore that migration from Africa, from Asia towards Europe, towards North America is an international phenomenon, and at the core of this migration is economic issue. Eritrean government could not provide facilities, could not provide jobs to the youth, And then the government was involved in conflicts with neighboring countries, direct, indirect conflicts. And for these conflicts, obviously, government needed youth. So conscription, indefinite military service, national service intensified, which is one of the causes behind this phenomena. But economic issues must not be overlooked as well. If there is, yeah, go ahead.
Yeah. Do people in Eritrea have religious freedom? Can they follow their religion? I hope that is not one of the reasons why they're leaving. Is faith ever an
It
issue?
is one of the reasons. It is one of the reasons. Four religious sects are allowed to worship freely in Eritrea. For example, in Islam, Sunni Islam is allowed. Shias are not allowed to build their mosques, their worship places. Jehovah's Witnesses are not allowed to operate in Eritrea, and some other denominations as well. And international human rights organizations, they have been sharing details about members of some religious groups put in prisons for their faith. It happened. It is one, there are several causes. You cannot say there's just one cause, but I think one of the main causes is poor human rights record and lack of economic opportunities. When youth sees no future in Eritrea, apart from serving in the military, obviously they would risk their lives and they would try to leave the country.
Now, because people are so desperate to leave, that the smugglers are taking advantage of the whole situation, because people are frustrated and they are so desperate that these smugglers, they manipulate the situation in a bad way. Do you have anything to say about that?
Well, the route which Eritreans take mostly is that they try to reach Europe. They mostly enter neighboring countries, Sudan or Ethiopia.
Yeah.
They can enter Sudan directly. They can enter Sudan through Ethiopia as well. From Sudan, they can enter Egypt and then into Israel. And then another route is that from Sudan, they can enter Libya. And then across the Mediterranean, there is Europe. They want to reach Europe, but there are tens of thousands stranded in Libya, in Sudan, in Ethiopia. And they are definitely at the mercy of human traffickers. These human traffickers are kidnappers as well. They charge money to take them illegally to Europe, to other countries. At the same time, there are gangs operating in the guise of human traffickers who are basically abductors. They abduct Eritreans. Why? Because they contact their family members living in Europe, living in Canada, in US. They demand ransom. And family members of abductees, Eritrean abductees from Europe, from North America, they pay ransom for the release of these Eritrean refugees who are on their way from Eritrea to Europe to America. It has happened. It is happening even now. There are several gangs operating, and if you could do a little bit of research, you would read lots of painful stories of Eritrean migrants who suffered during their journey to Europe. They were victims of sexual assault, they were victims of manipulation. They lost their limbs, some of them, and some died on their way to Europe. This refugee crisis, it's a very painful subject for Eritreans. Those who have lost their family members, they say this is one of the most serious issues which Eritrean government should handle.
Yes, you're so right. I was also reading a few stories, and one of them was reported by CNN few years ago, that 4,000 dead bodies were found with their organs removed. These were the illegal people who couldn't pay the ransom, and so they were sold out. Their organs were sold out, and they were killed, and 4,000 dead bodies were found. So yeah, I mean, these smugglers are taking full advantage of the whole situation, and there are so many such sad stories which come across. So, what is the solution? What do you think is the solution to this problem?
Uh, Eritrean government relies a lot on remittances. Eritreans living abroad, they send money to Eritrean government. And this is one of the main sources of earning for Eritrean government. So on the one hand, government is running on the money of these refugees who risk their lives, who reach Europe, and then they send money to Eritrea. On the other hand, government is trying to discourage Eritreans from leaving the country. If there are more
Mr.
Eritreans
Sajid,
in Europe,
do you remember when we were doing this video on Mr. Asayas Afwerki's interview, the last interview in which he requested these people who are living abroad to help them uh, and send money? He requested them.
yeah, you're right. He asked diaspora to invest in Eritrea. So on the one hand, Eritrean government wants diaspora to play its role in the development of the country, in investments. On the other hand, government is trying to discourage legal migration from the country. Eritrean government can legalize or it can facilitate the people who want to leave the country. But problem, I think, main problem is that Eritrean government was involved in regional conflicts. It needed manpower. It needed youth to be in Eritrea. Now, when peace deal has been signed between TPLF and Ethiopian federal government, Eritrea is reportedly backing the deal as well. We could hear some good news. Eritrean government will have to create job opportunities in Eritrea. It will have to put an end to indefinite national service, put an end to conscription. It will have to improve its human rights record. It will have to open up its economy to international investors. A lot can be done, but it depends upon what Isaias Afwerki wants to achieve. Is he working on economic agenda? Does he want to take the country towards economic prosperity? Or is he after a new regional alliance, military alliance, maybe where he wants Eritrea to be a main player? So a lot depends upon Isaias Afwerki. One man who's making key decisions, he can bring about a change because he's the one who's being challenged by no one in Eritrea, no opposition, no media, no one to challenge him. He can change the lives of the people if he is willing to do it. Now it's the time because a conflict in the neighborhood has been resolved. No new conflict in the making. But let's see what government does. So far, people are definitely leaving and they're risking their lives.
Yeah, they're risking their lives. A big number is going to USA. Does USA have any leniency for Eritreans?
I think all countries where asylum cases are applied, they take into account human rights record of the countries from where these immigrants are coming because they file these asylum cases on the basis of unfair treatment which these immigrants suffered in their countries. Since Eritrea has one of the lowest human rights records in the world, that is why obviously Eritreans, asylum seekers, they are given some preference. And maybe that is why Eritreans living abroad, they sometimes contact me, they say, Sajid, people from other countries, they try to disguise themselves as Eritreans because they want to accelerate their asylum cases. It has been happening in Europe, in America. And that is why this number of Eritrean refugees is inflated. It's not actual number. Yes, Eritrean refugees get some special attention. In a video, in a video with you a few weeks ago, I said that maybe Western and US policy about Eritrea was to help all Eritreans leave Eritrea. That Isaias Afwerki would be without any people to rule over. So maybe they want to facilitate migration from Eritrea to Europe to America, but this isn't the solution. Solution is to bring about some sort of change in Eritrea, and if it is with the participation of Eritrean government, then this change can be lasting change.
Well, thank you very much, Mr. Sajid. This was a sad research work for me as well, and I hope that some kind of reforms take place in Eritrea so that the people don't have to leave their country. And it is not easy to leave your loved ones and risk your life. They must be in a very bad situation if they're making these kind of decisions. So thank you, Mr. Sajid. Any closing remarks?
Yeah, you're right. It's very painful to leave your loved ones, and while you know that you might not reach your destination. Painful stories which you read when you read this topic in detail. Thank you, and let's hope, let's pray that Eritrean government changes its course.
I hope so too. Thank you, Mr. Sajid. Thank you, viewers. Please don't forget to write to us, and we'll be waiting for your comments and feedback. Thank you, and goodbye for now.
Bye bye.